Welcome to the 59th Chicago International Film Festival.
Disclaimer!
This year's festival presents over 100 inspiring films from around the world. Many of these films cannot be seen anywhere else.
What this means is that it was impossible to see every single film at the Chicago Film Festival. Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here, back again with another brand new video, and today I will be ranking all the films I saw at the 2023 Chicago International Film Festival. I was made aware of this festival around the time The Irishman came out, which allowed me to see that film early and in the cinemas, allowing me the opportunity to hold in my pee for 3 hours. The other 3-hour films that graced me with these cinematic challenges were Inland Empire and RRR. However, after that positive experience, the festival shut down briefly. I really don't know why. Slowly but surely, the festival did come back, and I got to volunteer a few times to see free movies. And while watching those free movies, I got to ask directors questions at their Q&As, because directors do tend to show up to the movies every now and then. I even got to meet Karsten and got to see his short film about dirt. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun those previous years at the festival, but 2023 was going to be different. In the previous years of the festival, I entered random films, but this time I had a set plan to follow. A good chunk of the films which I chose to watch this year were also random, but I bought all my tickets ahead of time, except for the rush tickets. And for about 2 weeks, I watched films nearly every single day. And today I'm going to rank all 17 features, well, give or take, there might be a few more than that, depending on how I remember them. Some of these are feature length, and some of them are a bit shorter, but all of them were seen inside a theater. Though technically you don't have to see them inside a theater because some of the films have the option of watching them online, but I didn't do that. But I do have a really interesting story. Departing Seniors was the first film of the festival for me, and what a film it was. There really is a great story with this one. Like, even before I saw the film, I was really close to missing the screening because I was in the middle of reaching round 50 in Call of Duty Black Ops Kino der Toten. In fact, I was actually around 45 when there was only 30 minutes before the film was going to be shown, so I actually didn't go. I successfully reached round 50, a shameless plug here, made a little video about that. I hope that movie was good, but I didn't see it. If I had a nickel for every time I saw a film that was a self-aware meta-narrative centered around the popular IP that's about a trans experience whose production had a hostile relationship with Warner Brothers, and for certain moments in the film to bear similarities with a skit from the Nostalgia Critic, I would have 2 nickels representing 2 films which I did not fuck with. Which is not a lot of movies, but it's just weird that it's happened twice. The People's Joker is an incredibly wacky film, not just within the film itself, but in its production. Technically, this is a 2022 film, but the version I saw is not the same as that 2022 screening at TIFF, or Venice Film Festival. I forgot where it got screened. Warner Brothers forced Vera Drew, the director, to shut it down, but then somehow she didn't have to. But a few things were changed in this 2023 cut. I have no idea what specifically was changed because I did not see that original 2022 screening. In fact, the next time this film will be screened, which is going to be in April 2024, I don't know exactly what day, but that's not going to be a festival screening, it's going to be a normal screening. But when that happens, more things will be changed because she couldn't afford the copyright to a lot of the music used in the screening, which I saw. So this is incredibly goofy. And the goofiness does not end there. Trying to enter this screening was also very silly. Let me give you a quick summary of the rush ticketing system I alluded to earlier. When a film's tickets are sold out, there's a chance that maybe 6 or 7 people won't show up to that screening. The 6 or 7 people who already bought a ticket, which is not Rush. That means that there's going to be 6 or 7 Rush tickets available if they don't go. So what you have to do is show up around 3 or 6 hours before the showtime to stand in a specific Rush ticket line to maybe get a ticket, because remember, we don't know how many of the original ticket holders won't show up until 2 minutes before the film starts. The only way I was going to be able to see The People's Joker is to get a rush ticket. However, I showed up 2 hours early believing a fatal lie. While waiting in line, I was under the impression that my festival film pass that allows me to see 10 films could be used for The People's Joker. I called in advance and asked just to make sure. 30 minutes before they were about to show the film, I was told that was not the case, and the person on the telephone fucking lied to me, and I needed cash. I had no cash. I had to go to the nearest ATM to get cash, but the one which I was told was the nearest closed 5 minutes earlier, so me and Jake jogged for 2 blocks to the other closest ATM and we got our cash. And we rushed back in because we could not afford to miss this once-in-a-lifetime screening. We returned to the line with a quick haste to ensure a better chance of being some of the lucky few allowed to receive a rush ticket for The People's Joker. And 10 minutes later, everyone was let in because the bottom 3 rows were like completely empty. Lucky us. The lights begin to dim as the projector exposed the audience to a film that was self-documentary and another part like an unreleased Nostalgia Critic skit. At times it was really funny, which I cannot say the same for the Nostalgia Critic, and at other times it was kind of genuinely painful to watch. The experience was a huge mixed bag for me, and this also applies to the visuals. This entire film was shot on a green screen, and over the course of 2 to 3 days, if I remember the Q&A right, which is honestly insane, but pretty much like 2 to 3 days to shoot the footage. The editing took like a couple years or so, but just like with any good modern superhero film, a majority of it is one actor talking alone inside a green room composited to look like they're talking to another actor who is also alone inside a green room. The difference between The People's Joker and, say, Warner Brothers is that Vera Drew had a crew of like 30 to 40 people, while Warner Brothers usually has over 100 slaves with salaries. And the funny thing is that both approaches end up with a film looking like shit! Hyperbole aside, I think there are some choices of the presentation that work really well in the Joker's favor. A lot of the backgrounds are kind of these matinee paintings, if that's the right term, which serve this Batman parody really well. And honestly, certain sequences are really magical, whether it be just really good compositing or just lighting for a couple scenes. And honestly, the mixed media approach successfully makes the film funnier and more engrossing at its best. However, the negative half of this compliment is that these sort of semi-recreations of the scenes from that one Joker movie just kind of really bring home an uncanny, just, I don't know, unfunny, unenjoyable kind of Nostalgia Critic skit level experience, which just makes my eyes roll back to the just roll all the way back to I forgot how to say that fucking phrase. A couple sections of the movie are very YouTube in format, kind of like in a video essay-ish way, with the main lead, aka the YouTuber, just flat out talking to the audience. At the best of times, it's fun seeing Vera break the fourth wall, but at its worst moments, it just kind of rubbed me wrong. It's like a film that tries to have its ironic cake, but also tries to have moments of sincerity, and just the blend I think is a little bit messy. This is a really cringe film, for better or worse. A good chunk of it intentional, but a good chunk of it was just not for me. Whether it be a sort of self-importance coursing throughout this film fan-fiction parody that I just couldn't fully latch onto, or a few running gags were really groan-worthy whenever they appeared, this one was mostly a miss with me and is definitely my least favorite film of the festival. But the Q&A afterwards was one of my favorite moments of my experience at the festival. I didn't fuck with the film, but I did fuck with the drive Vera had to make it. The idea of The People's Joker started off as a film called Drag Queen That's Addicted to Irony, but a friend of Vera told her to re-edit the Joker movie to be less serious because Todd Cancel Culture Will Castrate Me Phillips was talking about comedy and woke culture, so Vera got inspired to mix the two ideas together, taking her original idea and throwing in a Batman and Joker parody into the thick of it. She made an open call if any artists wanted to help out, and a lot of artists did show up, like a lot of artists. This is where a good chunk of that 30 to 40 people crew came from, by the way. I could see from the questions the audience had for her that they held Vera in high respect, and something definitely worth noting is that Vera Drew is the first person I have ever seen say anything positive about the Incredible Shrinking Woman film publicly, and I am 100% confident she will be the last. Vera Drew did say something during the Q&A that will stick with me. Nobody will give you permission to make what you want to make. You could spend 10 years working on television and it will never happen. You have to take the reins and make what you want to make. So taking those wise words to heart, I'll see y'all in 7 years once The People's Incredible Shrinking Man hits the film festival circuit. Be sure to buy your tickets quick lest you end up in a rush line with no cash. David Fincher really fucked up with this one. Like, wow. I cannot believe he made a film of this kind of quality. The kind of quality that I missed because I didn't go to the rush line for this one, because it's just gonna release normally in theaters like in a week from the 17th of October. Like, those rush tickets are expensive, like 20 to 30 bucks. Like, I could just get a free ticket with
AMC stuff.
Alien Island was the first really boring film of the festival for me, and honestly, maybe it wasn't the film's fault. I don't know if I saw Alien Island at a bad time. Maybe I was tired. Maybe the caffeine from my coffee did me dirty. Maybe the lady who stole my seat during the Q&A ruined it! Or the film just didn't grip me, which is a shame because I really appreciate the story they're reporting on. I was pretty engaged with the inciting incident, but then there's a shift where the story is kind of more focused on this one individual, and my focus started drifting after that. I don't know. This is based on a true story. But even with documentaries, there is a construction of narrative, and this one got a tad boring for me. Some of the ways they frame the story is interesting. The way it's presented with the original footage, and the consistency with keeping to the black and white color across the archival footage, old film footage, and with brand new footage involving interviews and theatrical representational scenes. It was all really novel, but despite that novelty, I found it hard to connect with all the different threads of this real life narrative, and by the ending it just didn't fully come together for me. Huge props to the filmmakers regardless. Their tackling of this subject matter has made UFOologists from Chile call the director communists. Fun fact, it has not been screened there yet. Also, after the film, I think my piss had a slight green kiwami. This is an interesting moment in history. I would recommend checking this film out, this documentary out, just to learn about it. Here is the first short film of my rankings. The Chicago International Film Festival shows short films in groups, like there will be an animation block, or a scary block, or a drama block. I considered maybe ranking the blocks as one film, but I lost track of which shorts belong to which blocks, so moving on. The Miracle is a beautiful short, in narrative and in style. The mix of different textures within the animation is really smooth, it's really pleasing throughout the picture. To further elaborate on what I mean, the character designs are see-through. They have bold outlines, but you can see the world through their bodies. The emotional highs of The Miracle are in huge part to bold experimentation with different textures at just the right moments. You have to be bold if you want to tell an engaging story in 6 to 12 minutes. I mean, I'm just talking about other people's movies and this video's over 12 minutes already. The Miracle covers the melancholy of motherhood and society's expectations on women at large. It is a really tender short, but the ending did take me out of the experience a bit too soon. I wanted to stay there longer. I feel the short could be expanded further, but also that seems really hard to do with this style of animation, just animation in general, it's hard. Miyazaki has done it again. One of the greatest directors of our time delivering another animated beauty. It is really remarkable just how consistent Miyazaki's career has been throughout all of his films. This is a man you can trust, and in fact, many people do. So many, in fact, that only the first 6 people in the rush line were allowed in. I was 26th in the line. I missed this showing despite the fact I stood in line for 4 hours! Warning! This short film is called In a short amount of time, you will learn just how many ways the children of today can go I like this short. I can get behind its message, an exploration of going which evolves into a musical symphony by the climax. It has a lovely art style, and I was happy after seeing it. I don't have too many thoughts on this one. I just hope they hire me for the sequel. Yeah, it was really cute. A thought I had about one of the previous short films at the festival haunts me with American Sick as well. I find the ending wraps up too neatly, and this stood out a lot with this short because the rest of it was incredibly gripping. The first thing that came to mind is that the animation is gorgeous, a bold graphic novel style that complements a harsh story of reality. The person of focus in this narrative also pursued making graphic novels. That's one of the reasons the film has this style. This was the only short I saw at the festival that was accompanied by narration. It's straight to the punch and wastes no time. I kinda wish it wasted a bit more time near the end, or maybe the resolution found towards the end gave me a false sense of hope. I don't really know how to articulate it. It isn't so much that the film didn't let me leave peacefully, it's more that the exit was so peaceful that I wonder if it really serves well as an exit from a somewhat rough experience. I would like to rewatch this whenever I have the chance, and I recommend y'all to go see this one, though I'm not sure when or where it'll be watchable, but it really should be available. It's really good. Concrete Utopia is the first disaster film of the video. The world is on the brink of death, and there is very little hope for humanity at large. The most disastrous part of the experience is that this is the first film of the festival I had to step out of because I had to pee. I apologize, I'm usually good at not doing that, but shit happens sometimes. Like piss. And like the end of the world. One of the best parts of the disaster genre is seeing the buildup of the world going to hell, the rapid ramifications of the situation. As social orders change, people's ways of living completely uprooted. The first half blazes through with such manic energy, just watching this group of people coming up with multiple plans on the spot to combat the hell they've been forced to inherit. Guiding along this energy is a fantastic set of performances, the standout being Lee Byung-hun, bringing a multifaceted fire to the narrative. Where the film started to lose me is around the second half. My interest in the characters grew less and less as the film went along, as some of the later subplots didn't interest me as much as that initial fiery buildup of the whole situation at the beginning. I find it loses a bit of tempo, but I was still mostly engaged. I don't know if it was the mood I was in, but the music was also overbearing at points. A less loud song could accompany some of these scenes. Also, this movie could be really cliche when compared to most other disaster movies. However, I can't say that personally because this point isn't really my opinion. I just read some reviews where people said that this film is kind of cliche, but I don't fully grasp the complaint because I haven't seen that many disaster movies. But regardless, this was still a blast. If you're in the disaster mood, this is a solid path to follow. I really like how this short wraps into itself in the same way a man and a woman wrap into themselves in the heat of passion. People fuck in this one. What I'm getting at is that the event of 27 is juggling multiple stories, some set in dreams while others are set in reality. The way the two warp brings a volatile energy to the piece. It's a film of dreams and a cruel reality. It's beautiful animation bringing to life a story about a protagonist who's a big loser in multiple ways. The textures of the movements are rough but wavy and smooth. A huge part of why the transitions between dreams and reality work so well is because of that wavy and smooth but rough quality. It's an endearing and bittersweet short, and its beautiful animation is also applied to its credits, which is a sick move. Without spoiling anything, it's about a day in the life of a broken bisexual, a story about coming of age and the age of coming. 27. Very good short film. These events are not autobiographical, they are biographical. Since I just mentioned another short film, I want to compare how 27 was a story of dreaming in the present, while the story of Maurice's bar is a dream of the past. The events are retrospective, recounting the variety of clientele that frequented one of Paris's first gay bars, the rise and excitement of the new joint, the disastrous falling out, and the understated aftermath decades after the fact. A bittersweet piece of history told with a striking use of black and white with occasional color, inked in just the right places. Once again, I may have said too much. Given it is a short, you ought to just see it whenever you can. However, I have to warn you, there are buts in this one. Carne de Dios is the final short film I'm ranking, and technically it came out in 2022, but the film is making its way through the film festival circuit again. Also, when looking up this short film in film databases like Letterboxd and IMDb and whatnot, they call it Flesh of God, but bruh, this is Spanish. Like, don't translate this for me, I know Spanish. As for the short film itself, this is the most fucked up experience I had at the Chicago International Film Festival. Carne de Dios is scary as fuck. Genuinely, this is like the most disturbing, graphic, and disgusting film I saw in my 2 weeks there. A huge part of why Carne de Dios was so effective is just the craft is gorgeous. The animation and scenarios on display here are some of my favorites of the year, but genuinely, this is not for the faint of heart. It is really fucking weird, but the talent displayed in the production is undeniable. My only issue is that that the story leans a bit into edgelord territory by the end, or I may or may not be giving the film enough credit. My final thoughts on this is that the main lead of this horror show, the main character, I just gotta say it, basically bro was washed. Like me personally, if I was there, I would not let that happen to me.
No cap.
I'm unsure if The Promised Land is a film that I think is really good or one that I will love throughout the next 10 years. Regardless, I need to tell you all, this is a damn good film. I want to draw attention to how pretty of a film The Promised Land is. The visuals are top notch. Tons of beautiful shots, massive long shots, landscapes, aerials, great use of camera movement, changing focus and knowing when to keep the camera still. Perhaps a bit of a basic summary, but I think it's important to mention given how these tools are easy to misuse or forget. And also just great performances all around. Mads Mikkelsen is fantastic as usual, and the cast all around is brilliant too. My only issue there is maybe the one child actor. I felt slightly mixed on her performance, but I might just hate children, I don't know. The music is also a little overbearing, like the first song of the film honestly kind of sounds like that one song from Joker. No, not that one! This one. Some character dynamics felt a little one note, but I don't think that's necessarily a problem because they were nonetheless entertaining. And the main relationships have a satisfying depth to them. The Promised Land is based on a true story, which makes me wonder what story structures they kind of pulled from to adapt this non-fiction saga, because it does move very similarly to other atypical westerns. Certain sections are close to cliche, but overall the narrative does take swings away from what you've come to expect. It's beautifully shot, it has fantastic acting. I really wish I knew when most of society can witness this movie. I actually don't know how to start talking about Robot Dreams. The robot is always smiling in a silly way, and I think that's pretty cool. Robot Dreams being the only feature-length animated film I saw at the festival, it was a lovely, cute slice of life. A huge part of the success of any slice of life worth its salt is the world of mundane events. And this version of New York City is incredibly lived in. There's so many details in the background and a lot of fun character designs. It's a huge love letter to New York. Just looking at it all move is more fun than actually living there. By the way, this film has no dialogue. Everything is shown through the visuals and sound design. There's music, but no words exchanged between people, robot, animals. It's an interesting approach, and it helps the story being told here is a more mature tale for children. Not mature in a graphic way, but more that the resolutions here are really bittersweet. Neither of the main characters gets to have a happy ending without some sacrifice or without moving on from something. Honestly, the second half could be a little upsetting for, little Timothy, especially if he's a big fan of rabbits. They do not get a good rap in this movie. What upset me a little in that second half is that some of the vignettes kind of spin their wheels a little too much for me. Some of the side quests they go on, I think, go on for a little bit too long. It honestly borders on aimless at points. But the central relationships and drama here is really gripping. It's got heart, it's got dreams, it's got losers, it's got robots. What more could you want? I'd like to call all fans of 2017's The Florida Project breaking news! The cinematic canon of kids living like shit has a brand new entry, and it's great! But for those unfamiliar with what I'm referencing, Paradise is Burning is a film centered around a really depressing look at the effects of poverty through the lens of kids living through it. Following a dysfunctional family of 3 kids with no present mother or father and with parent figures that range from slightly mean to very shitty, I am making this sound immensely sad, and it is. But it is also a film filled with love. These sisters love each other, and there is still happiness in this hellhole of a living situation. The main 3 actresses are incredible, and so much of this film is gorgeously shot, displaying the harshness of this reality with a compassionate glow, though it is still a really harsh film. It's also a film whose perspective is heavily centered on women. There are men in this film, but for the most part, the major beats and point of view are centered on women. The interesting part of this approach is I don't have anything to add to that. I'm sure smarter people than me have elaborated on that point further than I currently could. I really love this one though, and it is the director's fiction feature debut. It's a banger hit, and I'm excited to see what else she'll make in the future. I'll be staying tuned. Out of everything I saw at the film festival, Perfect Days is the most comparable to A Gentle Breeze, which is funny given that it's about a man who cleans shit for a living. This was the last and most low-key feature I saw, and there is a lot here that makes this one of the most calming films of this ranking. It's beautifully shot, focused on nature like sitting in the park, watching the trees illuminated by the sun, or watching our main lead's houseplants being watered. The framing of all these scenes brings to life the gentleness of the experience, but I would be remiss not to mention Koji Yakusho's incredible performance as our lead Hirayama. This is a really pleasant and gentle film, but at its core it's also about loneliness. Not the kind of loneliness that drives one insane, but rather Perfect Days is about the very mundane, lonely life of Koji, and his understated acting is crucial with bringing this tone home. There's a couple moments where you'd expect more bombast from the drama, but the film reels it back for more grounded payoffs. These choices speak louder about the characters than louder scenes would have. It's a film filled with great little choices all over the place. Truly, a gentle, beautiful, and nice addition to the He's Just Like Me historical canon. A perfect way to finish off the festival. But not my rankings. With a couple modern horror comedies, I've found that the horror is way more prevalent than the comedy, and Dream Scenario is not that. This film is hilarious. To quote the great green Karsten, Dream Scenario is like a funny version of The Hunt. The great thing about this quote is I haven't seen The Hunt yet. Nick Cage is fantastic in this. He isn't low-key per se, but instead of being a batshit crazy person like in a good majority of what we know him for, or like a huge figure of great sorrow like in one of his more recent films, Pig. No, not that one! In Dream Scenario, he kind of strikes a balance in between those two extremes. He's just a guy in this, and not just any guy. Cage's Paul Matthews is in the running for top 3 funniest dudes of the year, competing against Gosling's Ken and a secret third dude, be warned. The bits and setups here are immensely funny, but Cage's deliveries of these lines sledgehammer the giggle box. This is also a really nice looking film too. Nothing outlandish, but nice photography and good use of effects, practical or not. Forget Cage, Julianne Nicholson pairs amazingly with him, bringing a humanity and heart to the insanity of this dream. I do think near the end, the theming and concepts become a bit scattered, like some ideas feel spread a little thin when the film rushes to wrap up what is admittedly a massive concept with too many threads to answer every question it brings up. The ambition is respectable, and I do wish I had more to say about this film, but during the screening I drank something called the Suspiria, like not Suspiria, Suspiria. Maybe I shouldn't have. I want to be a filmmaker. One day, I would like to make a cinematic picture that has audiences saying, "Wow!"
I'm on the edge of my seat here.
The film Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World has told me to expect that PA work is gonna suck ass. This being a very quick summary of a film that takes a slow pace to fully soak in just how much being an underpaid, overworked employee chips away at the soul that making face filter TikTok starring Andrew Tate starts to seem like a good idea. This is the first film I've seen from this director, and his titles make a huge first impression. I remember his film from the previous Chicago Film Fest not because I saw it, but because it was called Bad Luck Banging or Loony Porn. These titles also give a sneak peek of the fantastic humor in these films. Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World is mostly a somewhat dry movie, but it has perfect interjections of crude humor, building an exhausting but delicious experience, like drinking a bowl of melted dark chocolate. The best part of this film is just all the stuff you don't notice. While watching it, I could have sworn it was like some sort of documentary because of how natural the down-to-earth tone works. This film also isn't shy about playing around with reality. Uwe Boll, famous filmmaker, just shows up randomly as himself, surprisingly, in one of the most heartwarming roles of his, indicative of the massive heart this film has for its downtrodden characters. It's a great mix of sorrow, mundanity, and humor. Also, I'm glad talented filmmakers are still fans of slowing down footage so the audio becomes, scary. Ooh, I do that, I feel seen. This film has some of my favorite scenes of the whole year, the best scenes. I do like most of the movie, but there's just a couple scenes that really completely floored me. And Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World is worth watching just for those scenes. One of them was especially touching, yet harrowing. However, the most notable part of this particular scene is when halfway through some nasty woman's fucking telephone started ringing loud as fuck, interrupting a scene with literally no audio. Besides that awful interruption, this is one of the best films of the festival and of the year. I was talking with my Uber driver about it, and I was describing the film to him, which gave him an idea, which he wanted to pitch back to me. He said that he had this idea for a film I should make focusing on a corrupt politician. The reason he was thinking about this is because there is this specific man who got 20 million followers after releasing just one song focused on that very subject. That man was Oliver Anthony, and the song he recommended to me was Rich Men North of Richmond. I like this dude's beard. What the fuck does he know about making movies? Fallen Leaves is the most awkward romance of the year, and I loved it a lot. It also makes huge strides in that, unlike a lot of the bangers this year, it's actually quite brief, clocking in at only 81 minutes, and in that time lies a gorgeous looking movie. The frames pop with color, and I love the contrast with the shadows. The use of music is really nice as well, with helping bring this very quiet and awkward romance to life. And just that awkwardness just comes from our main two leads. They're such quiet, reserved people, but there's still tension between them. Neither of them are living their best life. They aren't thrashing against their circumstances so much as they make do. Life sucks in a very nonchalant kind of way. The two of them are dealing with their struggles in their own flawed and hugely introverted ways, and I think that's really cool. Once again, the actors naturally flow into their understated mannerisms, and the supporting cast do a great job upholding the mellow, somber tale, with a great wrapping of dry humor to round out this compact film of romance. To move on from just Fallen Leaves, this director has made around 39 films, and they all have posters involving yellow text, which I'd say is symbolic of the headache I had holding in my piss watching what is my favorite film of the Chicago International, well, what used to be my favorite of the festival. By the way, there's a film called The Favorite. Have you seen it? It won an Oscar in 2019, and that director has made a new movie recently. Yeah, I think it was called Here Lies Yorgo's masterpiece, and everyone at the festival knew it, because I needed to acquire a rush ticket for this one. I showed up 3 to 4 hours early, just before that showtime, to ensure my second place in the rush line. This time, I had real cash with me. I made sure not to repeat my Joker or Heron mistake. I got my ticket, I got my snacks early on, and I was seated in the front row. Through these efforts, I got to see one of my favorite films of the entire year. 2 months early, might I add. And so far, my favorite of Yorgos as well. I've only seen The Lobster and The Favorite. Poor Things, I think, strikes a balance in between the two by dealing with an absurdist concept somewhat like The Lobster, while adapting more to the snappier dialogue of The Favorite. But even with these comparisons, I must make it clear that Poor Things is a completely different beast of a film. They still do a funny dance in this one. I am a broken record, and this is a gorgeous movie. The sets are otherworldly. This film had more of a budget than his previous efforts, and my eyeballs absorbed all the beautiful decisions made with that money. The intertitles are beautiful too. There's so much creativity when transitioning between different chapters of this saga. I am not 100% sure how this film was made, but I suspect green screens were a part of the production. They help with heightening the more uncanny aspects of the film. And this film is all about heightened emotion, so abandoning realism really helps light that fire. And the costumes are immaculate. The costume designer, Holly Waddington, showed up to the screening and got to talk about all the symbolism with all the different outfit choices, the importance of the textures chosen, and the mixed matching of different time periods to serve the film's unique tone. Also, the secret third dude is Mark Ruffalo, starting as possibly the funniest dude of the year. If acting in any other film, he would be stealing the show, but Emma Stone is in her element. She is so captivating. It's her show from frame one. She manages such a natural approach to this cartoony, insane, violent, horny, and vulnerable character. This could be one of her greatest roles ever. The rest of the cast are splendid as well. Chill-ass Willem Dafoe does a lot while still being decently chill about it. Just fantastic performances all around, further enhanced by a fantastic script with fantastic presentation and fantastic music. The Fantastic Four of fucking filmmaking. This is positive, by the way. And by the time this video is out, Poor Things must be available to watch, and watch it you must. It has drama, absurdity, graphic nudity, hilarity, dance bands, and a contemplation of existence at large. There's nothing poor about Poor Things, and it is far and away my favorite film of the 2023 International Chicago Film Festival. And over those 2 weeks in October, I had a mostly incredible time watching a ton of wonderful cinema. Shout out to the volunteers. I was one of them in the previous years, might volunteer again in a future year, but they're a huge part of what keeps the festival running, and a good couple of them are my homies. Also, shout out to my senior short film. I will be releasing it soon. Be prepared for that. You may not believe this. It's about theaters. Thank you so much for watching my ranking of all the films I saw at the Chicago Film Fest, and I will be seeing you all then for the next video. Peace out.